Welcome to Reach, your platform to connect with other executive assistants and acquire game-changing knowledge and perspective. Reach is designed to inspire your workday, guide you through pivotal moments in your career, and transform you into the executive assistant you've always wanted to be. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Reach. Today, I have my assistant, the lovely Sarah Duncan, in the studio with us. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. This is so fun for me because I feel like I'm normally a behind-the-scenes girl.
Yeah, we are stepping outside of the comfort zone today. So I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for agreeing to get out of your comfort zone and out behind the curtains.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So we've had a number of our listeners reach out over the years and say things like, well, does Jessica have an assistant? Or who supports Jessica? You know, it's kind of like being the EA whisperer, but yet, you know, is there an EA behind me? And there most certainly is an EA, and it is the incredible Sarah Duncan, who I just mentioned. And so we thought it would be a fun conversation to talk about the dynamic between the two of us and quite literally how we've come to connect, integrate in a way that allows you to make my entire world function. So we're going to be talking about that today. I will say that for years, it was kind of this ironic, you know, that we all know, like the cobbler's son, that whole, you know, story where the cobbler's son wears no shoes. And I felt like it was that for me for many, many years, because here I was building this recruiting firm that specializes in world-class executive assistants and talking about the incredible value of EAs. And yet I had no executive assistant of my own for many, 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 many years until about 3 years ago when Sarah came into my life. So she plays a huge role, huge, in enabling me to accomplish all the things that I apply myself to, allowing me to handle all the things that I'm committed to and occupied with. I would definitely say that you help preserve my sanity and keep me grounded and composed, to the extent that I can be described as composed, and really ensuring that, you know, nothing falls through the cracks, whether it's client communications, whether it's pressing priorities, whether it's keeping me ready and briefed for a meeting, getting me from point A to point B, or even just ensuring that my children, you know, are enrolled in school for the next year and I know what day to bring them. So through your support, I've really been able to ascend to new heights in my career, in my role professionally and as CEO of Maven, but also personally. You know, it's through your support I've been able to accomplish things that I've always wanted to do. And you know what I'm talking about. I'm thinking about, you know, going to Brazil and dancing and training in Brazil, and the fact that I could not only have your help in arranging all of that, but know that you would be the steward of my work while I was gone for 2 weeks, and I could really check out and feel fully comfortable doing that. And going to Italy and doing my whole bread thing and your support and all of these things. So through all of this, I've really enjoyed and blossomed through our partnership. So anyway, long story short, I thought it would be really fun to talk about how we work together. And let's start maybe with learning a little bit more about your story, Sarah, and kind of what your backstory is, what your career journey has been, and ultimately what did you do prior to joining Maven, and what led you to us?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm so glad you said all those things, because obviously that's like my goal and my job, and everything I do is to give you those opportunities and to allow you to have that capacity. So I'm glad that it's working. But I guess a bit about me. I have kind of been all over the place. I started working with a high-end wedding planner and was also the office manager for a photography studio at the same time. And then kind of progressed and got my degree in early childhood education and worked as a preschool teacher for a bit. And teachers are vastly underpaid. And so I thought about all of the things that I loved in both of those fields and how I could take that into my next role. And that's where I landed on being an assistant and being an admin. I think at first I had this kind of 50s mentality about assistants and like thinking that all they did was get coffee and take notes and like that it was just a stepping stone to something else. But the more I did the job, the more I realized how incredibly wrong that is and how there's so much more to the role, and that I just really fell in love with it. I love that every day is different. I love that I'm able to help people live their best lives. And I stumbled upon Maven during COVID and had been out of work for a while, and was just so grateful to be connected. I kind of feel like it was fate that we were brought together, because I have grown so much in this role, and I've changed so much as a human and as an executive assistant. I feel like all of the executives that I supported in the past would probably be jealous of the support that I can provide now, because I'm just so different than I was. Thanks to you, because I think you have taught me so much, and I've grown so much through this role. So I'm just forever grateful for you and for Maven, and honestly for coming into the executive assistant field in general, because I do love it, and I feel like it's so rare to be able to say that you love what you do, especially nowadays. And so, and I do, I really do. So yeah, it's been great.
It's funny because you've been asking me to do a review for you for years, and which I've never done because it's just like
it's low on the list.
I can't. So we're gonna count this podcast episode as your formal review.
Excellent.
Okay. And let me just say, I thank God for you every day. I do. And I don't mean to be like all, like in the first, 5 minutes of our conversation? No, 8 minutes of our conversation. Like I could literally I could get emotional thinking about how inextricably valuable and how much I've come to really rely upon, but really admire how you show up for me, the level of capacity that you have created in my life, and the level of also just comfort you provide is like, I like when I say like I thank God, it's like you're part of my gratitude chants, truly. And we're going to talk a little bit more later in the show about what you've learned and how you've grown through our partnership. And I'm also going to reflect on that too, because I think it's very much a two-way street. And I think that's what's so beautiful when people can come together who are different, who do have different approaches to life and different worldviews and just different sensibilities and all of that. But how can we take from one another in a way that's really symbiotic and mutually beneficial and supportive? And I have certainly learned a lot from observing you and how you navigate things. So we will talk about that too. But before we do that, I'm curious. So you mentioned you started working for this high-end event planner. You were doing some photography work. You did early education. Do you feel like any of the things that you were exposed to in those roles have sort of informed how you show up as an assistant, or have influenced how you approach your role today?
Yeah, they're all very different, but yet they're the same at the same time. I mean, it's all very people-centric, customer service-centric, based around organization and problem solving and planning. And I think the people aspect is the biggest. It's in all of those roles, I'm dealing with different kinds of people, and whether they're clients or kids. And it's about reading people and really like learning who they are, and then being able to, I don't want to say morph, it's more of a just being able to adapt to who you're speaking with and knowing the proper way to communicate to make them feel more comfortable. Because I think it's a matter of building relationships, and those relationships are really what move you along in life. I have an example from my when I worked with the wedding planner that really stuck with me, like ever since the very early days. She was always very like buttoned up, put together, like always in high heels, very fancy. And she showed up one day to a client meeting wearing this like very bohemian outfit, like flip-flops, was very like chilled. And I was like, oh, okay, this is different vibe than I'm used to. And then the bride walked in and she matched. And I could tell that the bride just instantly felt comfortable around her. And it was such like a lesson or a click that stuck with me, because I was able to see how when you make someone feel comfortable, how much further you can get together, and how I guess in my case, like how much better I can be at my job when I have the positive relationship or the depth of relationship.
No, that's so powerful. And that just the visual of this, very Chanel woman, suddenly donning like a flowy outfit and flip-flops.
It was Nashville, so she's got the big blonde hair.
All the things, yeah. But that's such a astute example of how relating to others allows for that rapport and just that kind of inherent comfort, When you offer that, it intuitively allows people to ease up and just
And I'm definitely not saying like change who you are, because that, I think if you change who you are, then that's really obvious too, and then that will instantly make someone feel uncomfortable. It's about knowing yourself and knowing how you can kind of adapt and morph that to the person that you're working with or communicating with or whatever. Which
comes up a lot in our work, right?
Yes.
Because we do a lot of client-facing work, and you, as my assistant, interface with every single client that I interface with, and they're all very, very different and need to be handled in very, very different ways. So that's definitely something that you're seeing firsthand on a regular basis.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So thinking about our relationship, which I think is clearly a huge part of this job, how would you describe that relationship, and in particular, how we work together because of that relationship and connection?
I've heard you talk to some of your clients and explain or demonstrate executive assistants as being kind of additional brain cells. And I feel like that's so accurate. Like, I like to think of myself as an extension of you. So it's like an almost like a puzzle type effect where I guess you complete me type of idea. Like I'm here to give you that extra capacity for you to be able to focus on what's most important to you, and to lean into that direction and not have to worry about all of the extra like tedious staying on the phone with the internet company while they put you on hold for an hour and a half, like all of that stuff that is such a waste of your time. I can do that while also doing five other things at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of like, I think my goal is to always give you those extra brain cells, that extra brain space to know that you can pass things off, know that it's taken care of, and be able to focus on what's really important to you. And I mean, that can be whatever you want it to be too. Like maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that's your kid's first day at school, or maybe that's a like client that you've been working on, or whatever. It's whatever your priority is, and then I'm taking everything else so that you can focus on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I definitely feel that. I think we can both agree that we're different in many ways. We have a lot of common interests as well, but we're also
Yeah.
fundamentally, I think, we're different. We're wired differently, you and I.
Right.
How do you think that our different personalities and brain types actually make for a really effective and complementary partnership?
I mean, yeah, I think it goes back to that whole puzzle aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm very uptight and like regimented and like organized, and feel like you're much more laid back and confident, and like I think we feed off of each other in good ways and that we take from each other what we need. My like type A ness can provide the urgency when it's needed. And you, in the same aspect for me, like, I think there have been times where I might be stressing about something and I talk to you about it, and your tone and how you approach it calms me down. And I still know that it's an urgent priority for me, but just that energy interaction, I think, is what can be really beneficial in helping me then move forward and like achieve what I want to achieve without that stress that I put on myself. I mean, I think that's the main thing, is that we are complementary in that way. You might be able to share more as to what you get out of it, but I think there's so much that I get from our relationship.
I definitely think that, on a Venn diagram, we're like
Yes.
like here, right? But then like there's this beautiful crossover as well, because all Venn diagrams have that middle ground, right? And I think for us, that middle ground is, obviously food. And like, I think that we definitely have a shared love and enthusiasm for hosting and exhibiting warmth through our food, through the lens of food, through the community of food, and and just thinking about kind of how that brings people together, and kind of obsessively enjoying that whole experience, from the planning
Yes.
to the setting up to the presentation to the photographing to the execution.
Yes.
Like, I think that we share that, and I think that we both have an interest in people and connection, and I think it shows up differently, but I think that there's a similarity there. And it's funny to hear you describe yourself as uptight. That was funny. I like immediately went to like, I don't know, like Mary Poppins or something. But I mean, I think that I would say you're not uptight. I would say that you're extremely good at accountability, and you're extremely good at capturing what is necessary and critical, and intuitively understanding how to prioritize things, but also how to gather all the strands, right? Because I have a lot of different strands, and there's a lot of random things that show up that really have nothing necessarily to do with one another. They're somewhat unrelated, but you have an amazing ability to just sort of, suction all of that, consolidate it, and then keep it front and center and ensure that things don't fall off the radar and actually are consistently and steadily advancing those objectives quietly, stealthily, swiftly, accurately, precisely in the background without me having to even question. I've never had to question. Once you attach your name to something, I've never had to question if it will get done or and if it will be done correctly. Like it just happens, And so I don't think that's uptight. I think that's incredibly skilled and really intelligent support that demonstrates your knowledge of everything. That's how I see that. And I think we're both type A, but we're type A in different ways,
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm not good with organization. I think we can all agree on that. But I am very committed to the vision, to the goal, to accomplishing whatever it is that we're working toward. But I'm not great at developing the roadmap for how that's going to happen and keeping things moving in a, time-based, time-stamped manner. So,
Right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what were some of the biggest surprises or adjustments that you faced when you first started working in this recruiting space, which is really, it's a client space, it's a sales space, it's a recruiting space, and then we have all these other side projects. So what were some of the biggest adjustments or surprises that you had to confront?
Yeah, I think it's been fascinating, particularly because like all of the candidates, I am one of them, and so like everyone who's applying, like I've been in their shoes. I've had loads of rejection. I want, just like you do. I mean, that everyone at the company, like we all want the candidates to succeed. And so it's been really fascinating for me in terms of seeing it from like the whole interview process and how big of an impact fit is on it. I think it's been eye-opening in that it has showed me that if you're talking to someone, you have the qualifications. Like no one's questioning whether you're qualified for this role. When you're speaking with them, it's all about personality and process and like seeing how you work together and really finding that partnership fit. And I think I always viewed it like if I was rejected for a role, I would take it personally and think of it as like a hit on myself. But it's not that at all. It's so rarely a personal thing. It's just the fit and the personality match. And honestly, like it's all done for the benefit of both people. Like you don't want to be stuck with working with an executive who you don't partner well with, or it's gonna make you dislike the job. It's gonna cause for like a terrible relationship. And so I think it's all like so beneficial to both parties to find that fit that goes well together, because that's what will really help you build this like long-term partnership. I feel like I hopped around a lot before I found you, and it wasn't necessarily because of it. It was like situational things. I've learned a ton just from getting to know you for an extended amount of time. I think that's one thing I've learned, like hopping around, you don't have the time to get to know the executive to a depth that can really be beneficial to your role and to helping them. I think it really takes time to like foster that relationship. And so that's taken a tangent, but that's just something I think I have learned through this whole process, and how important that relationship is between the executive and the assistant, and how it can be mutually beneficial to both of you.
I couldn't agree more. So we said we were going to come back to this, so now we're coming back to it.
Okay.
About what are some things that you've learned by working with me for the years that we have worked together? What are some of the ways that you've changed or grown or morphed? And then I'm gonna flip it and ask you to ask me the same question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is to ask for what you want. That's like such a huge thing. I'm a very like non-confrontational person, and in the past, I think if someone said no, I would just kind of take it at face value and just like go on. But I think there can be so much that can be gathered from asking. Just asking. It's that saying: you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That sort of thing.
Right.
It's like little things too. It's not always having to be like pushing back in a confrontational way. It's like, I use this in my personal life just the other day. We were on vacation, and I went to the rental car company, and I said, do you have any free upgrades? And like a small thing that's like doesn't really matter, but they were like, oh yeah, sure, here you go. And so it's like, if you ask for something, you're probably gonna get it. And that's something that I've definitely learned from you, because like it's not something that I was like naturally programmed to be. And so I think that's been huge. I think I've learned a lot in other aspects too, like when we had that furniture mishap where the furniture was like totally damaged, and I called up the company and just told them the situation and asked if there was anything they could do. And look at that, the woman had been in a similar situation before, and she was able to empathize with what was happening and ended up helping us out. And so I think there's just like, you just never, there's so much that you could get that could add to your life in general just by asking. And I think that's been huge, and also helped with my confidence a ton too. And yeah, that is definitely something I've learned from you.
Well, I like to say, you don't ask, you don't get. So
yeah. I think, I mean, gosh, I'm like trying to think of other things, because I feel like honestly, just like your presence as like this boss bitch is so it rubs off on me. It's like helpful to be around because I like don't naturally have that like level of confidence, and I feel like I have gotten that by seeing the benefits through how it affects like your interactions and such. And
no, it cracks me up because I know that we've talked about this over the years of just kind of like, you developing the comfort in being put in those positions that I have put you in, or sometimes you just rise to the occasion and voluntarily are just tackling these things. But there's just, life comes with conflict, and whether it is personal, professional, whatever, there are always infractions and things that go wrong, or people that are acting in violation of whatever agreements, contracts, protocols, behavioral agreements, right? Not
Yeah.
acting correct. And these infractions, they just sort of happen all the time because life is full of people and situations, and especially the kind of work that we do, which is all
Yes.
about people. So yeah, like I've definitely seen and can attest to how I've also seen you morph and develop a new level of comfort and facility in having these types of interactions and being like, like really owning them. I mean, there's a lot of times where I'm like, you did that so much better than I would have because I would have come at it with attitude, which often doesn't always get the desired result. And I think that you don't come at it like that. You come at it in a
Hmm.
softer way, in a
Hmm.
less confrontational way, and I think that that actually oftentimes gets us farther, than I would have gotten on my own. So I also see that the value in that approach. Um, but yeah, no, I like laugh to myself because I think to myself, I'm like, am I gonna get a call from your husband one day being like, like what are you influencing her?
I
Like,
do. I feel like I have definitely been able to stand up for myself a lot more than I would have in the past. And like,
mhm,
yes, and my husband has seen it and acknowledged it. He's like, wow, like working with Jessica has really like boosted your
hmm,
confidence level, and um in a really good way, in a way that like we should stand up for
mhm,
ourselves,
mhm,
and we should
mhm,
uh like speak our own opinions and
mhm,
minds. And
mhm.
I think being around you, having that energy has been huge,
Well, that's
uh
I'm very happy
a
to hear
huge
that.
role model for
Yeah.
me.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm very flattered to hear that. As far as what I see and admire in you and things that I would like to continue to get better at are, you have a way of not catastrophizing. And so I'm the opposite. I have a tendency to want to vent. I have a tendency to want to complain. I have a tendency to want to like go there, like just really go there and, get really caught up in the emotion of it and the frustration and the indignity of it all and the blah, 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 and the irritation. And you just don't. Like whatever happens, whatever circumstances we are slaying together and navigating through together, you're always you don't add fuel to the fire. And it's interesting because I think that if you were like me, we would probably spend an hour just lamenting. But that's
Right.
not what happens. Like you let me like have my little, volcanic eruption, my little like and but then you graciously transition us and you're like, okay, so sounds like I'll reach out to so and da 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 da, and you immediately go into solution mode without all of the energetic wasting and outlay of effort. Like eventually I will get to the solution point, but I'll spend so much energy being exhausted and going through these cycles of irritation. If I could just learn to immediately go to where you go, which is like, okay, this has happened. It is an unfortunate circumstance, but there's probably a reason that it's happened, and now we're going to handle it, right?
Hmm.
It's really nice to see that in action and not get so caught up in that catastrophizing loop. So that's something that I can definitely work on and that I think you do extremely well. And I think that's why you're so efficient, because you're not wasting time in the spiral, the emotional spiral. Um, I think that similarly, like bring a level of composure, and I never see you get frustrated. Like I keep waiting for the day when I ask you to do something, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be the day. This is gonna be the moment. This is it. This is when she flips out and she goes, "That's where I draw the line." Like, but you don't. Like you really take things in stride, and you don't, at least to me, you don't visibly appear frustrated or annoyed that whatever, United Airlines X, Y, and Z, and you've got to call them for a fourth time or whatever. You just handle it. Those are things that I think you do extremely well. You also are very non-judgmental, and I think that you do a really good job of just kind of creating a safe zone for whatever's going on. You're there to support and to offer whatever you feel needs to be offered, but I've never once felt like there was any level of condemnation or judgment in any of the situations that we've been in. It's really just more like, okay, cool. What do you need now?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Which is a really incredible thing. And I think that that's a rare thing, that to show up like that,
Thank you.
That's
like
something
blushing.
really special. So obviously every executive has their own style, every CEO has their own style of how they show up, how they operate, communicate, all the things. What strategies have you developed to work with somebody like myself, as far as how you anticipate things for me, how you stay in front of things, how you eliminate strife? Like, what are some of the strategies that you've learned in dealing with somebody like myself? And are there, maybe some shorthands or tools that you've developed over the years that might help other EAs listening today learn to deal with, executives who are similar?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is, unless someone is really trying to just completely uproot and flip their system, people aren't gonna change. They have their ways of working, and I think it's up to us as the assistants to take the way that the executive works currently and then kind of form it into the effective, efficient way that they want it to be. Example of that is I'm very calendar based. I very much go by my calendar, do time blocks, blah blah blah. But you're not owned by your calendar at all. And so that's been something that I've taken, and if you have something that you are working on that is a high priority to you, but just for whatever reason it's just not getting done, I think one of the things that's helpful is just doing it together, because then I can be there, I can be the accountability, and also it's done quickly, and all of a sudden it's off of your to-do list. And so it's I think doing it together can be big. I think the other thing is matching communication style, and this is something that I'm still working on. But you are one that picks up the phone, and I think I have started picking up the phone more, and I think in doing that, it's helped my job so much, especially because you aren't owned by your calendar. And so calling you in the morning and hearing a recap of what your day is going to look like and what roadblocks there might be or what meetings you may or may not be able to attend, that sets me up to be able to inform the rest of the team, and to also know the big picture of where I can help and things that I can do to help you out throughout the day. And I think it also helps you too to kind of start the day knowing what it's going to look like and have that picture in mind too. And so those are some big things, I think. The other, I guess, also with matching the communication, if I'm writing you a message, I'm very much just go off of my mind, but I
Stream of
know,
conscious.
yeah, yes, you're not gonna sit there like if you see a big paragraph come through, you're not gonna read it. Like,
Yeah.
and most people wouldn't. I'm not saying that's just you either.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something I have been trying to work on too, is like short, like staccato sort of messages are
Yeah.
much more effective. So I mean, it just comes back to, like you were saying, just knowing the executive and like knowing you and how you work, and then kind of taking that and learning what will be most effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Staccato. That's the name of the game. Yeah. Short and sweet. I mean, I'm laughing because I had to sign off on my daughter's syllabi for last night for her new school. And to make sure that parents and students are in agreement on what the expectations are, right? And everything is like, must show your work, show your work, show your work, show your work. Like, there's no credit unless you show your work, you show your thought process. Mm-hmm. And that's, I would say, like the opposite of what I'm looking for. I'm like, don't care about the thought process. Yeah. Just what's the outcome? What are the options? Like, is it A or is it B? You know? So it's funny because it's like the exact opposite. But I think that, you know, and to your credit, we've tried a lot of different things. And, you know, you have been very experimental with me and like, okay, Jessica, should we try, like, we were doing the daily digest and the daily briefing. Yeah. Then we were doing like a weekly briefing. Then we tried Notion and creating like a shared board. We've tried, I don't know if we tried Asana or talked about it, but in any case, we've done, well, I'd say the one thing that we absolutely stick to is our weekly one-on-one meetings.
Yes.
And those are critical, necessary, never missed by us, because that's where we get to fully align, and you have every single agenda point categorized by whatever it is that we're dealing with, client related things, event planning things, President's Club planning things, personal things I need to be aware of, tax things that we're working on for the business, whatever, like all of the things, right? And we go through it and we align, and that's how we ensure that we keep the ball moving forward. But to your credit, like, you've tried a bunch of different things, and you've also tried the time blocking and trying to make me more time bound. And that's why I say, like, so all of these things didn't ultimately work for me, because I am who I am. And like you said, you can't change the person. And that's where it's interesting, because I've never felt that you were frustrated by the inability to make me change. And that's why I said earlier about never feeling judged by you. Like, oh man, like, what is it with this woman? Like, how does she do all these things and accomplish all these things, but she can't even manage to, like, respond to a calendar and live by a calendar? But, you know, it's like, I don't feel judged by you. If anything, I feel the opposite. I feel like you say, okay, so these are the things that Jessica struggles with. We've tried this, this, and this. It didn't really work. Let me try something else. And I think that's what makes you such a great assistant, is because you're not trying to impose your order of law, so to speak, onto me. You're saying, okay, this is where she's great, and this is what she's naturally great at, and this is what she's naturally very challenged by and needs my support around, and you meet me where I'm at. And then when it comes to how you yourself run your own desk, well, then you can be as time bound as you want to be, and you can have all the Notion documents you want, and all the things, and you can choose, and I'm sure you do, and that's how you need to. That's what you need to manage things, right? So I think it's like, it is a little bit of an experimentation, and I personally feel really good about where we've landed, and maybe it's a little bit more loosey than other people, you know, how they work together, but it works for us, and it works for me, and things are not falling apart at all, like quite the opposite. So I think there's an element of experimentation
for sure,
and
Yeah.
trial. And I think just saying that and knowing that it might take a few iterations to really figure out what that rhythm is going to
Mm-hmm.
be between, whoever is listening today and their executive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the time piece also plays into that. Like, we've had the time to try these different things, to experiment. And I think that has helped with not like it helps build our relationship too, is throughout this amount of time.
Yeah, definitely. So, can you share a moment when you felt like we were just perfectly in sync? Is there anything that comes to mind and what made that possible?
I think anytime I'm planning travel for you is when I feel that way. I think it's like we have a very similar standards level, and like,
An aesthetic, yeah.
yeah, I think that like if I can find the perfect hotel for you where you then come back and are like, that was awesome, that's when I'm like, yeah. It sounds silly to say, but I just love like helping you live your best life. And so it's like so fun for me to then hear the stories of and like see the pictures and like all of these things from the trips that we've planned together, that we've worked together to build. And I think there's also an element of like I see how hard you work, and so when you are able to like disconnect and like actually go on these holidays, I think that's why I almost like put so, I don't want to say pressure, but like I have such high standards for your vacations and your like places that you're traveling, is because I know what your day-to-day looks like, and I'm like this needs to be good. I want this to be good for you. And again, I think it comes back to the fact that we have a good relationship, and that like if I didn't like you, then I wouldn't want you to have a good vacation.
You would care less.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do think sharing that similar aesthetic is one place that I do feel like very in sync.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. I mean, everything that you've found, and the two big things, well, also our presence clubs, but I literally felt like you were with me on those trips because
Yeah.
everything was like, oh, while you're over there in this neighborhood, make sure to check out this place, which is known for its stracciatella or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's been around
Always
for
food.
180 years. And,
There's gotta be something revolving around food.
exactly. But I definitely felt just that investment in the holistic experience. And yes, and knowing the kinds of things that excite me and that inspire me, and you do such a great job of that. Not just for me though, like also with our team. Like I'll give an example, when you were planning one of our president's clubs, like you would individually send out, itineraries, flight, pass, all the things for every person, in addition to sending them, like, for instance, the spa menu, and then going so far as to say, go ahead and select whatever service you would like, and I'll go ahead and schedule everything for you. Like the way that you just support, it's instead of just like, here's the link to the spa menu, good luck to you. Like that these presence clubs that we do, this is to honor our team members who have excelled at the highest level, right? They have done all the things, all the reps, achieved a really superior level of performance. And intuitively, that you want to show up for them. You want to give them that 5-star service and that 5-star sensibility. And the number of team members have come to me and been like, oh my gosh, like the way that Sarah just asked me, if I wanted this, and the way that she was monitoring my flights, and the way that she let me know that, there were options for me when my flight got delayed, or my looks like I wasn't going to make my connection, or what. Like you just have a way of really anticipating and putting yourself into those situations to eliminate strife and just greasing the wheels for people, just really allowing for things to flow. And I think it's that beautiful like flow state. I've never felt so much flow in my life. And it's really, I know it's because of you. And it's so interesting because when I see our team members enjoying just a little bit of Sarah, just a little sprinkle of Sarah, I was like, yeah, you don't get all the glitter, you just get a little bit of Sarah glitter. But this a little bit that they get, they're like, oh my God, is this what it's like for you? I'm like, yes, it is. So leave it at that. But yeah, I mean, those are definitely ways that I feel like there's synchronicity. And even just, and I'm getting more on the personal side now, but even just like, the whole thing that I did in Italy, where I went to go on this bread workshop, because you and I both share a love and admiration for Sarah Owens, who's a sourdough baking extraordinaire. And it was you who saw the retreat and flagged it for me and said, did you see that Sarah is hosting a retreat in Sicily? You should totally go. And I immediately dismissed that idea. I was like, oh, that's so cute. What a fun idea. That will never happen.
Right.
And then we were talking through it, and it was like the way that you really encouraged me to not just dismiss it. That's something that's really important to me on a human level. And I think because I feel so supported, I mean, A of all, the fact that you found that for me is huge for me, because talking about synchronicity, like you care about what I care about. And I feel like you go through the world kind of like noticing things and saying, oh, Jessica might like that. Let me, note that for Jessica. And that makes me feel so cared for and so held. And so, yeah, I attribute that trip to you. It wouldn't have happened otherwise. And, us deciding that I was going to do it, and then figuring out what were all the things that we need to move off my desk prior so that I could go for 2 weeks and geek out over bread and think about nothing other than sourdough and focaccia and cheese making and all these other wonderful things, So that to me is synchronicity. Or, the way that you called to see how my daughter's first day of high school was. It's like, it's things like that. Like, I feel like there's a high care quotient in how you show up consistently. And it's authentic. So, being an assistant, as we talked about, isn't just about logistics. It's also about how do you support the broader company goal, the broader company vision? How do you move the needle on company objectives and priorities? Can you share some of the ways that you drive impact at Maven and how you've been able to leverage your role as my assistant to really amplify our goals?
Yeah, I am a representation of you. And I take that really seriously. I mean, you are like the queen of EAs. And so people expect you to have an amazing EA because you could have anyone that you want. So I take that really seriously, and particular in our interactions with clients, and when I'm meeting with them or when I'm communicating with them, I'm constantly thinking about the fact that I am representing not only you, but honestly the whole EA profession in general, and that I'm trying to show them all of the benefits and the wonderful things and the ways that their life can be different if they have an executive assistant working for them and supporting them. And so I think that's constantly my goal when I'm interacting with the clients, and that's in the back of my head, is I want to show them what's great about having an EA, so that when they are like going through the search process, or when they are like finally selecting their assistant, they're really excited about it, and they're excited about all the potential that they will have. And so I do. I mean, I take it seriously, and it can be a lot of pressure, like supporting you, who is around executive assistants all the time and sees such a wide range of different types and different attributes and traits, and so I think in a lot of ways too, being around that has made me a better assistant, because I'm able to pick up on things that I see that the candidates have done, and I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, I should try that. I should do this as well. And so I think I hopefully am able to be a positive representation of the profession and you, but also it's like symbiotic in a way. I really like self-improvement and things like that, and so I'm constantly looking for ways that I can be better, and I think Maven has provided a perfect environment for that and helping me to up level myself. And I hope that it goes both ways, and I hope that what I'm trying to achieve comes off to the clients in the way that it does.
I mean, I've only ever had every client be positive and appreciative and impressed by how you facilitate all the interactions and all the communications. I mean, literally, like and you and I both know, without naming names, like the organizations that we're talking about that are like some very, very world-class, very, very prestigious organizations telling me Sarah is amazing. She's been an amazing ally and partner in this process. And I can't, thank you guys enough and thank Sarah enough. Like, you're often called out for that. So it's funny because I never thought about you feeling that pressure to exemplify. I mean, it makes perfect sense hearing you say it, but I never thought about it because I think sometimes too, it's interesting, we'll encounter these clients that are somewhat on the fence as to whether they're ready for an assistant, and they're sort of needing some cajoling or encouragement or reassurance that an EA is in their best interest. And I think it's so interesting because especially in those moments, seeing how you navigate, seeing how you facilitate, seeing how you follow up, seeing how you just, again, grease the wheels, it's to me, that is exemplifying the essence of what is so important in an executive assistant. And so I think that you do that extremely well, and further underscore the need for and purpose of having an EA in your life.
Good. Thank you.
Yes. So what advice would you give to other executive assistants looking to build a meaningful and strong partnership with their executive?
I think it's a very similar thing to what I've been saying, is just building that relationship and on a personal level. I know there's a lot of executives that are not open to talking about their personal life. But if you can get them to open up in any way about their family or their hobbies or like what they do on the weekend or like the restaurant that they went to dinner the night before or any like little bit, I think that's really going to bring you a lot closer, and it's also going to help you be a lot better at your job. I just had no idea until I started working with you how much more I can do knowing those things, knowing more about your life. It just can be so helpful in terms of helping to support you as like a whole, because then I'm informed, and I think it goes both ways. I think I have in the past, I think I said this, like always built up a wall, and I like have not been, I've been very like strict about that this is my professional life and that's my personal life and they should not intertwine and all this stuff. And I think once I opened up to you, and I think you were honestly the one who like encouraged me to open up. I think having those similar interests and honestly just the simple thing of asking like what I did over the weekend, that shows me that you care about me, which then makes me want to be a better assistant to you. And so yeah, I think any way that you can like try to get those like personal elements in your relationship can really strengthen the bond, and then in turn help you become a better assistant, which then makes their lives a lot easier as well.
Are there any questions you have for me that you
yes.
would like for me to answer for our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, you have been around the top executive assistants, chiefs of staffs, like the elite assistants of definitely the United States and I mean potentially the world. What traits and things have you noticed that are like really standout elements or make these assistants kind of a step above the others?
I think the ability to be a driver, I would say that as EAs that I've seen ascend further and further and further higher in their career, right? I think that it's this element of being able to drive and intuit what is necessary without direction and without a need for prodding or anything, right? So it's the ability to be a driver, and that, I'm using that word very. It's kind of an umbrella for a lot of things, but it could mean seeing something that is an inefficiency and taking it upon themselves, unasked and unprompted, to address it, or seeing an opportunity to up-level your executive and creating a plan. You know, we've had people on, Ann Hyde I'm thinking of right now, but like devising plans for how to build additional leverage and remove, tasks from her executive, and creating this whole red light, green light system, right? So it's a way of knowing what the executive's priorities are and really being able to really push things forward. But to the extent that you need guidance in that, you immediately kind of reducing your value. So the less guidance you require to be that driver is, to me, I think, a definite quality that I have seen across the board in top performing EAs. I think that some of what you just talked about as well would be like the flip side of that, but I think equally important, is being able to empathize on a level that is really personal. And I'm talking about going well beyond, okay, my executive has to be at the airport for 7:30, so I'm going to make sure the car service is there at 6. And no, that's not empathizing. Empathizing is, what are all of the things that this person needs to function, to feel human, to not be provoked or frustrated, so that they can walk into a room and be on their A game, so that they can go through a strenuous day and not have more friction points, right? Because their assistant has, in a very empathetic way, already accounted for those things, right? It's like, it's night and day. So I think people that do this role well really do understand their executives and know what's going to be triggering, what's going to be provoking, how can I prevent that from happening, where do they need to, where do things need to be, how they need to be positioned, framed, showed up, presented, right? So those are just kind of two things that immediately come to mind. But
that's such a good point, is really just putting yourself in their shoes and almost visualizing like what will it look like and what factors are going to be thrown at them, so that then you can prepare in advance.
Right.
I'm like, I'm going to take this.
Well, and like little things, like thinking through the fact that you might be assuming that on this trip to wherever they're going, that they're going to have Wi-Fi. So therefore you put everything in their email and you put everything in their calendar, but you're making assumptions that everything's going to function. And I think that a good assistant thinks about, what is my plan if things function? And what is my plan if things don't function? Because you can't always rely on, the fact that everything's going to happen seamlessly, the fact their internet's going to work, the fact their cell phone battery's not going to die out on them. Like, they're still going to need access to all of the things, right? So I think it's a level of anticipation and empathy. There's so many skills, and we could talk for 2 hours just about that. But those are the first two that pop into my head.
Yeah, that's good.
I have a final question for you, which I'm sure you already know what it is.
Oh, yay.
So, not that I would ever want you to support anyone else, but if you could support anyone, who would you choose to support and why?
Yeah, well, the person I'm choosing is dead, so
that's okay.
As you know, I love baking and cooking, and so I would love to support Julia Child.
I knew you were going to say Julia Child.
She's always pushed the boundaries of age and gender and perfectionism. I mean, like, she's on TV, national TV, and she'll like spill something and be like, whoops, and move on. And like, I just love how like unapologetically herself she is, and how she how she like was constantly redefining herself and challenging herself and like living just a fascinating life. If you ever want to read her book, it's really good. But yeah, I think she would be my woman.
Yeah. Taking chances, taking risks, and having like think about her legacy. Like, generations later, she's still synonymous with bringing French cuisine to the American palate and to the American table and making it accessible. And
being one of the only females in her like cooking class, and and like a quote unquote like housewife at that too. Right. Yeah. I think that's she did a lot, and that was really inspiring. And so I think being around that energy would have been really cool.
Yeah, I agree. That doesn't make me jealous. I agree. That's a very good choice. So, yeah. Well, this was fun, Sarah. I hope you enjoyed your performance review, aka podcast episode.
Performance review, public to everyone.
Public to everyone, exactly. This was really great, and I really, I can't say enough how much you mean to me. And I think you've given some really great examples as well of, just the trial and error and the interplay and interaction and iterativeness of this role, and how, it's okay to experiment. And so I think there's a lot of really smart, great ideas that you've also shared with our listeners. So thank you for that. And thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Reach is brought to you by Maven Recruiting Group, who specializes in placing executive assistants and support staff to the Bay Area's most prominent executives and companies. If you've enjoyed being part of our podcast community and are interested in becoming part of our candidate community, we're currently hiring for roles in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, and Los Angeles. You can visit us at www.reach.com www.mavenrec.com to see some of the roles we're currently working on and to submit your resume.